Hi, Guy. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast today. You were the first guest of our inaugural Jewelry Connoisseur podcast, so it's very special to have you back here. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much, and thank you for having me again.
Well, we have something very exciting to discuss. Hancocks is moving to new premises. So tell us why you're moving and where you're moving and how it's going to look like.
Okay, it is extremely exciting. So we are moving down to an address on 62 St James's Street, which is very close to where we are now in London. It's a beautiful old Georgian building, and we're taking the entire building. So we will be expanding to have 3 floors of gallery space, 2 obviously further floors as well. And we're completely refurbishing the whole building in a very unique fashion, which will be designed to enhance the customer experience, the buying experience, the learning experience, and row mobility, which obviously is very rare within jewelry galleries. Historically, Hancocks was always a house of Hancocks. We've been manufacturers of jewelry as well as diamond wholesalers, and as well as dealers in beautiful signed pieces of jewelry. So very much the intention is to take us back to our roots, also to embrace our history. So the new environment will be a celebration of our past, to showcase our experience, our knowledge, and our passion for the jewelry and the gemstones.
I've heard there's something very unusual about the way the jewelry is going to be displayed in the retail experience. There won't be any counters. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Because I think that's really interesting how people are going to seem to move a bit more freely around the space to experience the different floors and the different displays on each floor.
Absolutely. So one of the things I wanted to achieve was to move away from this sort of retail experience over the counter in the same way that you might buy a handbag or a scarf. So I wanted to move away from that and create an environment which did justice to the pieces that we're selling. And by doing that, we got away with the counters. We're creating 3 very unique gallery spaces, each completely unique, which will be done away with the counter experience. It'll be gallery style, showcasing the jewelry for all its beauty, so the customers can come and roam and get very close to the jewelry. They can also come and admire the jewelry without being disturbed by me or a sales staff if they wish so. They can enjoy the beauty of the mid-piece and always have one of us to hand to allow them to try the pieces on if they wish. But I very much want to create this experience, a very unique experience in enjoying the jewelry.
Tell us how the 3 floors, because it's a 5-story building, but the 3 floors for clients and collectors, how are they going to be divided?
So the ground floor, so as you enter, we will still have windows onto the pavement, onto St James's Street, which is a beautiful Regency period, wide, beautiful street in London, very, very old and established. So we will have window space showing jewelry onto the passers-by. And as the customer enters the ground floor, they will be greeted into a very, very beautiful take on a Georgian library. So we'll have beautiful paneling, which you would have seen in Georgian times in the 18th century. And we'll be showcasing our fantastic library, which we've built up over decades and decades, well, actually centuries, really. And so that will be there for our customers to see. Amongst this will be the jewelry displayed as well. And on this ground floor, we will have a little bit of everything that we sell. That's everything from the beautiful Georgian jewelry, Victorian jewelry, signed pieces from the early 20th century, right up to the lovely pieces that we make today, exclusively really with the antique gemstones and diamonds. There'll be a little taster of all of those pieces. And then as the customer journeys to the first floor, which will be in a completely different design, there's a little bit of Victorian influence on this floor, but still maintaining the beautiful large windows at the front, which we get lots of natural light in there. And then the decoration will be sort of a celebration of our sort of Dickensian, Victorian history as well. So that's been beautifully designed. Thick fireplaces, silk moire, beautiful, beautiful, very, very decadent, but letting the jewelry do the talking. As the customer then goes up to the next floor up, which is a very large gallery space up there, this will be where we will be showcasing most of our diamond pieces, our beautiful antique diamond pieces. And this again will be embracing the Georgian period of the building and our wonderful history, but maybe a little bit more avant-garde in approach, a little bit more modern up there. So a little bit of everything, which is designed really to represent who we are as a business today, very much in touch with our history, but very much a current jeweler and wanting to lead the way selling and making unique pieces. The rest of the building, obviously, we're going to have beautiful offices upstairs as well, which will also be customer facing. So had a lot of fun working with our interior designers, designing this office space as well. sort of which is right at the top. And going back down to the basement and to the vault, again, I think the top level of luxury you can imagine anywhere. So, no expense spared of creating a phenomenal environment for our customers.
Sounds like it. I think it's 4 times larger than your Burlington arcade premises. So people are going to see much, much more jewelry, which is obviously fantastic for collectors.
Absolutely.
And there's many, many things, obviously, that you offer that we're interested in. But there's one thing in particular I thought we could discuss today, and that Hancocks is so renowned for, is the old cuts. The old cut diamonds, how popular they are. It seems like the new generation is very interested in a more sustainable approach to jewelry. So old cut diamonds, they already exist. We don't need to mine them. They offer also different options for design. So can you share a bit more about the old cut diamonds that you're offering at Hancocks, and that you'll be offering even more of them, or at least the same, but in a different display in your new premises in St. James's?
Yeah, more for sure. So what I tried to do in curating our antique diamond collection and gemstone collection is finding the very, very best of those antique stones. Not all antique diamonds or gemstones are cut well. Just because they're antique doesn't mean they're particularly well cut. So it's finding that top 1% of beautifully cut diamonds from history, from whichever period, and finding those, and then obviously doing them justice by designing and showcasing them in the best way possible. The beauty of what we do is we sell beautiful antique pieces as well. I'm not a butcher of jewelry, so I don't tear beautiful antique pieces apart. But often, especially ring jewelry, has one love of lifetime in it, in a time scale. So we recycle those diamonds and create one-of-a-kind pieces of them. So really what I'm looking for in those antique diamonds specifically is cut. It's not size, it's not colour. To a degree, it's not clarity. I mean, obviously, I look for completely eye-clean stones, really, but it's the how well that stone has been cut, whether it's an old mine cut diamond, whether it's a beautiful early 1920s Asher or elongated Asher. It's the cut of that stone and the life, the beauty, the charm of it. And we've certainly seen a huge increase of interest in these diamonds in recent years.
People coming to you from all over the world, you see different demographics in the past years, after COVID, for example?
Certainly. So the US market's always been big for us. We've been trading in the US and have consistent US clients for 100 plus years. So that's always been a strong market for us. However, in recent years, the specific interest in antique diamonds has certainly increased. And certainly a lot of the sort of larger antique stones are going back over the Atlantic to the US, which is quite funny, actually, because I spend a lot of my time going over to the US to buy these beautiful antique stones, because even though there were a lot of them cut and polished in Europe between the 1918 and late 1930s, they went over to America. I'm bringing them back over here, and a lot of them are going back again. So that's quite funny on that part. But the interest in the old cuts certainly has escalated, and wider than US, worldwide, there is renewed interest, a bit more academic interest, as well as the environmentally responsible and ethical reasons of buying recycled diamonds as well. So that's really wonderful to see people educating themselves a little bit on, why antique diamonds, what makes them different, but also once they sort of immerse themselves with it and see them, the unique charm that they offer over the modern cut diamonds.
And I think what you do, which is very interesting, is that you use all these old cut diamonds or gemstones and you set them in a more modern setting. You give them the best cut, the best possible setting. So what are people looking for? They're always looking for beautiful old cut, but with a bit of a modern contemporary twist, or they want something really in a vintage original setting?
A bit of everything, really. So you're absolutely right. I nearly always will put on a modern touch onto a ring design. However, I am also very much drawing from Hancocks history. We've been manufacturing rings since 1849. So quite often I will look at some of our old original designs and bring back those influences. An example of that is in the late 1890s and early 1900s, Hancocks were doing beautiful engraving work on a lot of the rings and jewelry we were making. We're very lucky to have a phenomenal engraver today. And so I've, over the last few years, been using a lot of that on the rings to emphasize the unique nature of them. And that's become a little bit of a hallmark of a lot of our rings. So I never want to, obviously, reproduction is something we don't do. So, but inspiration often from the period that diamond may have been cut, and other historical designs as well. The Georgian cut down is a design that's become very popular, wider than Hancock, again, which we've been making throughout our history and we brought back again. And that we put a modern twist on, obviously applying a black and rhodium to represent the oxidized silver around there, which creates a beautiful juxtaposition between the diamond and the setting edge, which is It's very contemporary in style, even though it's extremely historic design. And then on other pieces, we have a lot of fun, creating juxtaposition of beautiful antique Georgian or Victorian stones and very modern styles and designs for men and women. So we've got to stay on our toes because every ring we make is one of a kind.
And what people know, obviously, is like you used to do a lot of silverware, a lot of important pieces for the royal collections and, all the different noble families. So is there some pieces that are going to be on display in the new Hancocks? Something that is, you quite want to show off to the world?
Absolutely, yes, there is. So as part of our history, yes, as you said, we used to make phenomenal, beautiful silverware, which might have been racing cups, huge wine jugs, and very, very ornamental silver pieces. And we were a big manufacturer of those in the 19th century. One such piece was a beautiful, very large, about sort of a meter high, very, very large, beautiful, ornate silver wine jug. And we made this and we exhibited it in the exhibition in Paris in 1855. At that show, we subsequently sold it to Napoleon III, the last emperor of France, who's a fantastic client of ours. And he bought that jug. And we have this beautifully documented in our diary, handwritten and a beautiful font, photograph taken of it then as well. Subsequently, this came up for auction a couple of years ago, this same jug. And I thought I'd love to have that back again. It's fantastic. So I brought it back and rehomed it. It won't be for sale. It's purely for display, but it showcases that part of our history and will be proudly displayed at our new gallery.
Oh, I'm glad the jug traveled back the Thames and came back to London.
Absolutely, yeah. Although Napoleon III actually ended his final day's work, he was living in London. In fact,
Right.
just about 3 doors down from our new premises. So that's a nice touch as well.
Do you know if Eugenie carried on buying when she was in exile?
I don't know for sure, but I have certainly gone through our archives to try and find evidence of it.
Actually, you just mentioned the archive, and what I found really interesting is you've shared in a digital way, or you're going to share all the books of Hancocks, so people are going to be able to find out what people wrote about Hancocks, about their purchases. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Because I find it's fascinating for people who love history to be able to access the raw material this way in a digital way.
Absolutely. So we have this beautiful diary, which doesn't go back to our beginnings, but it goes back to about 1860, a nice amount of age. And what's interesting about this particular diary, it's much more than just a ledger. It's a social history, and it's all handwritten, beautiful script. And it tells the story of what's happening in everyday life. They're not necessarily just jewelry sales or, Queen Victoria visiting us or any of, those pieces, which are still in it as well. But it talks about Charles Dickens and his passing and other things about what might have happened. There's one interesting anecdote, I think, in the 19th century, which says something along the lines of, last night drunk prostitute throws stone through window. So, gives a sort of Dickensian view of what Hancocks shop was like in those days. I think it's a really interesting bit of our history, which I hope will be engaging to users. And like you said, we've had this professionally scanned, so people will be able to digitally flick through this diary and see the handwritten notes in person.
Can people expect a new website as well as the new store?
Absolutely. And we will be launching our new website within the next 6 to 8 weeks, trying to tie it in with our new home as well. So that's very exciting. So we're doing a lot of new, and the common denominator with everything new that's happening is bringing in our old and past much more to the surface as well. So the new website, a new look, it's going to be much more functional. It's going to have a lot more educational areas to try and portray some of the information on why we love old cuts so much. Perhaps sort of buying guides on there as well. And obviously we document a lot of the actual lovely old jewelry houses and makers on there as well, with biographies on huge amounts. So we'll be very proud of the sort of educational and sharing our knowledge side of things as well.
Well, I can see already spending a lot of hours going on that.
Yeah. I hope you do, yes.
I will. Guy, as I said before, you were our first guest on the podcast, and we discussed at the time Art Deco jewelry, Art Deco cuts. What are the current popular cuts with your collectors? Is it still Art Deco is ruling, or you've seen people changing a little bit their preferences when it comes to jewelry styles from the past?
Okay, so yes, things have moved, so which is great. It has to. Right now, sort of the post-war retro period, so that sort of late 1940s to probably sort of 1980s is a great era. So very bold, very gold. All the great jewelry houses are still there, making a lot of other emerging ones as well. I think La Luna, George L'Enfant, who was producing phenomenal gold jewelry for all the big jewelry houses and in their own name as well. So this is a really great period now, and I think there's many reasons for it, but I think it can be very expressive jewelry without necessarily big gemstones and lots of pave or less finery and more statement. And yeah, we've got some fantastic pieces there. And Amy, my sister, as well as my father, buying a lot of these pieces. My sister's got a fantastic eye as well. So this is definitely an area that's in vogue at the moment.
Yeah, I'm loving all this bold, voluminous yellow gold personally. And the L'Enfant star signs, pendants are just amazing.
Yeah, the zodiacs are very popular. Absolutely, yes. Amy absolutely loves those. They're fantastic, and there certainly seems to be something that's on everyone's wish list at the moment. Obviously, the Georgian jewelry, we've got a fantastic pair of, go the other way, fantastic pair of decadent Georgian sort of royal collection quality earrings, which are fantastic as well. So there is still that interest everywhere. And if we take that sort of interest back into the old cut stones and the rings and jewelry we're making, it spans it everywhere, really. Big, gold and bold, but as well as, more delicate old mine cut settings are still very, very popular as well. So I like the spread. I like where we are at the moment.
Sounds great. And the last question before we close this podcast, and I think every antique dealer is telling me the vintage market is doing very well. And we're happy for that because that's, a big favorite. But what do you see as the big trend for the market, for this sector, estate jewelry for 2024?
I think gold's going to continue. The big, bold gold is going to move forward. I think that's going to uncover some smaller makers as well, who perhaps weren't in the limelight. Everybody's looking for, the next maker, big or small. Unique design as well. So, pieces, Andrew Grima, who obviously is very well known really amongst collectors, of course. Those type of very, very bold statement conversation pieces, which are perhaps easier to wear, I think are going to continue to grow. I think, although the Art Deco jewelry is called a little bit the original Art Deco jewelry, in the diamond side, and I'm very, very close to my heart, is the 1920s and 30s Asher-cut diamonds. My diamond curation is weighted in that direction. They've become very popular. I think the elegance of these beautiful old step cuts have become very popular and sought after, and quite expressive stones without the perhaps obvious brilliance of the old mine cuts and the other brilliant cut stones.
That's fantastic. So, Guy, I thank you so much for having joined us on this podcast. I wish you all the best in your new home.
Thank you very much.
Anyone who's in London has to come and visit. That seems like it's going to be such a beautiful showcase of the jewelry and the elegant building. And I love the way you describe this decadent Victorian-inspired floor already.
Yeah, absolutely. Best enjoyed with a glass of champagne, which will be there as well.
Oh, this is it. We sold. Thank you so much, Guy, and wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Sonia.